It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman, and joining us to talk about happiness and the fundamental theory of happiness, in fact, how to find your purpose and be more joyful, is Dominick Albano. Thanks for being here, Dominick.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me on the show. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you here. What's something that's made you happy in, say, the past 24 hours?
Oh, we had chili last night for dinner, man. It was like a cool 60-degree day down here in Cincinnati. And I texted my wife at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, hey, babe, what's for dinner? She texted back chili, and I about screamed. I was so excited. So, yeah, definitely the chili, man.
Is happiness the goal? Sometimes it seems to be in conflict with the idea that we're supposed to be suffering and taking up our cross.
Yeah.
So how does that fit in there?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think as Catholics, we can have this thing where we come off like a little bit morose. We get into the suffering a little bit, or like I love when you go on marriage retreats in the last couple of years, and like the theme of every marriage retreat for like every diocese across the country might as well be, guess what? Marriage sucks. You know, because they're always like, it's going to be so hard. The Disney dream doesn't exist. You're going to have so many challenges. Like they just hit this one note over and over and over again. And I really love like Pope St. John the 23rd, right? He's got this thing called the Daily Decalogue. Have you ever heard of that? You should check it out. Just Google it. Pope St. John the 23rd, the Daily Decalogue. I wrote a blog post about it for Ascension as well. But one of the lines in there is like, I will believe firmly today. So the concept is like he had these 10 things, and he would recite these 10 things every morning. And it was just kind of like a rule of life for him. And one of them is like, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, I will firmly believe that I'm meant to be happy in this life and not just in the next. Or that God wants me to be happy in this life and not just in the next. So I just think, in God's economy, like it can't just be all suffering, and it can't just be all like, sunshine and rainbows. But God made us to be happy. So I'm all about it.
So can everybody be happy? If that's what we're meant, I'm assuming the answer is yes. Does personality matter, or time of life and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of factors, right? But, I would mirror that question with saying, like, can everybody be holy? God made us for holiness, right? God calls every single one of us to be a saint. So, yeah, there's a lot of different personalities, and there's a lot of different factors, and people have addictions, and people have, depression, and people have serious stuff going on in their lives, but they're still called to be holy. And if God created us to be happy, right, then there is a way for everyone to be happy as well, if they're doing what God wants them to do and being the person He wants them to be.
So what's holding us back then?
Well, in the book, I go through 5 different enemies of our happiness. And I think there's really a lot more than that, but these are like the 5 most common ones. And I won't go through all of them right now, but I think some of the big ones are, not really understanding what it means to be happy. Just laziness, right? Like there's a lot of times where, life is hard and there are challenges we face, and you can get into this place where it's like, I don't even want to be happy. I just want like my car to start in the morning,
Yeah.
I just want to go to the dentist and not have another cavity. Like
right.
I don't need to be happy. I just need life to work.
Survival.
I think the survival, right? I mean, obviously the devil doesn't want us to be happy. So we have a pretty big factor working against us there. And then honestly, like the biggest one in terms of our day-to-day lives is, because of like original sin and because of our fallen human nature, we are most attracted to the things that will not make us happy, right? And that's like, I think just the daily battle with happiness stems from this place of like, man, I really want to go to Chipotle for lunch and eat a 2,500 calorie lunch. But what's really going to make me happy is like having a salad and maybe like going for a walk and being energized, right? So I think that daily battle really holds us back from happiness.
You, in the book, outline your previous version of what you thought would make you happy. And it looks like your typical good Christian, good Catholic man's desires for happiness. And it wasn't like bad stuff. It was like being a good father and being able to contribute to society and great things. How has that changed for you over the years?
One of the things the devil wants to do is like teach us lies about happiness. And we all have these lies within us, and the diabolical brilliance of them is that they are totally customized to each of us as individuals. So for someone, it might be like, oh, if I just had that Lexus, then I'd be happy. Or if I could just, run a 4-second 40, then I'd be happy. Or if I could just do, this or that, then I'd be happy. And it can be like, oh, if I just have like the idyllic Catholic life, then I'll be happy. And so it's not necessarily so much about what we do, but what I get into the book is happiness has much more to do with who we are. And I'd say that's what's changed for me is my outlook on happiness has far less to do with what I am doing than it does now with who I am being. And happiness stemming from a place of purpose and identity rather than achievement and accomplishment.
You also tell a story about a man who was pretty unhappy with at least his job. I'm not sure his whole life, and kind of in finding his vocation. I don't want to spoil anything. He realizes what makes him happy, and how much of that our happiness is in finding what God created us to do and doing what we were made to do, and not just kind of choosing our own path, but really realizing our vocation, our calling.
Oh man, I think that's it. Like I think that is that. What do people say when they have these incredible moments of their lives, right? Like a child is born, or the day they get married, or even like the day they become a priest, or whatever, right? You have these big days, and what do people say? Like, I was born for this. Right? Like I was born for this moment, Right. And it's not just that they're happy, right? They are happy, but there's even something like deeper going on about their identity and purpose. And I think that's like the closest thing we get to these touch points, right? It's like a signpost that's like, hey, you're on the right path here. You're on the right track. Like follow this. This is the marriage of like what God created you to do, who God created you to be, and then actually living that out in your daily life. And that's why those days, are so powerful for us.
So what should be on our list of accomplishments to achieve happiness?
Well, I mean, you got to buy the book, right? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, wear jean jackets, drink good coffee, whiskey helps. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, all those things are pretty good, but no, I mean, when you think of, what are kind of the quick hits, right? An unrelenting pursuit of being truly happy is what I'd say is like number one. If you want to know like who I would say like can get a lot out of this book, I would say if you really want to be happy and you will not be satisfied with anything other than a true and lasting and deep feeling and sense of happiness and encounter with happiness, and you read this book with vigor, you'll find it, right? Because we have a great talent as humans for lying to ourselves and just settling. And so, if you really want to be happy and you're not going to like settle for anything that, anything less than what you were made for, that's like number one. If you can get in that place where you're saying, I will not settle, I will not be satisfied, then you're on the right track.
What about helping other people to be happy and to things that we can do to make other people happy?
Yeah, man, that's the number one happiness hack. That's it, right? It's in the book. The number one happiness hack I know of. If you're feeling down, if you're having a crummy day, if you stepped in a big puddle when you got out of your car, or, your wife told you were not having chili for dinner, the number one happiness hack I know is make someone else happy, right? Do something for somebody else. It's just one of those magical things. You make somebody else happy, feel happy, and you're gonna feel happy. And that can be as simple as like going through the Starbucks line and paying for the drink of the person behind you. It can be as simple as like, noticing when your coworker does something, really good and just paying them a heartfelt compliment, right? Any one of those things think about what you want and what makes you happy, and then go give that to someone else. And, the law of the harvest tends to apply there. You sow some seeds of happiness in other people and you'll get it back. Now, I will mirror that with you can't take on responsibility for somebody else's happiness. And I think that's a really, really challenging thing if we want to get into the more serious side, is we all have friends, siblings, parents, kids, grandkids, right, where we see them living their life in a certain way, and we see kind of we see that they are not happy, and we take on this responsibility that's not ours, right, to try to make them happy. And man, it's hard enough to make yourself happy. You can't be trying to make someone else happy.
So how has the process of putting this book together and researching and finding quotes and all this, how have you changed your life to incorporate some of these ideas?
Yeah, man, that's like the challenge. Because it's easy to like come up with good ideas or to discover best practices from other people. For me, it was like, there were so many moments as I was like researching the book and interviewing people, and my wife really helped me. My wife has her PhD in neuroscience. Oh, wow. So you should know that I married up. Uh-huh. That's actually when I do like speaking, if I ever like I'm doing like a men's track and I'm talking to like young guys, on the high school groups or that sort of thing, I always tell them like, if you want to live a happy life, just marry up. It's the easiest and quickest and surest path to it. But she helped me do all this research, and there's a lot of stuff that like, and you'll find this in the book, right? It really challenges you to like put your money where your mouth is. When you read a study and it's like, hey, here's the deal. Social media does not make people happy, right? Like study after study shows from a neurological perspective, right? And my directive to my wife, who again, she has her PhD in neuroscience, she does research for a living. I was like, I want evidence-based research from reputable universities. So this is like Stanford and Oxford and Harvard. And like, this isn't like Uncle Bob's house of neuroscience. You know what I mean? Who are coming up with this stuff. And so when you read a study from a reputable university that studied the people's social media use over the course of years and found that there was a, correlation, if not causation, where the people who are using social media more reported living less happy lives, then you're like, okay, every time I'm stuck at a traffic light or I'm in a line at the post office or, I'm waiting to do this or that, I'm like pulling up Facebook. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't be doing that, and there's a lot of stuff. I mean, just story after story in the book. And it's a very I don't want to give the perspective that it's this real heady research-based book, because it's not. That's in there, but it's very story-based, and it's really written to be very practical, right? So you're just going to get on almost every page something you can implement. And every one of those ideas or practices you can implement are based in that research, or they're based in the best practice. But every single one of them, they really call you to the mat, because you have to start living those out. So I'd say like a big one for me, here's like a big concrete example, right? Whenever I experience like feelings of dissatisfaction or unhappiness or sadness, or even just being in a bad mood or a cranky mood, like one of the things I talk about is reminding yourself of what I end up calling like the permanent principle. What are the most important things in your life and how you figure those things out? So for me, it's like, let's say I discovered that, somebody at work, something went bad at work, somebody was talking bad behind my back, right? And I'm frustrated about the situation, kind of reframing everything I'm experiencing, and the idea of like just reminding myself, I'm a beloved son of God. God loves me, has a plan for my life. He wants me to be happy. The most important things are my wife and my kids after my faith, right? Like going through that framing, which is something I do at least once a day now, because it's something I do every single morning when I wake up. Like maybe it doesn't like get rid of the like feelings of upset, but it puts them in a context, right? A proper context. And that is like one concrete thing that has been like super, super helpful for me.
All right. Well, I feel like this is so important, because as we have more and more things and access to more things, it seems like people are getting less and less happy. So very important book and a very important time. So where can people get the book?
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate you saying that. You can go to ascensionpress.com/happiness. Again, that's ascensionpress.com/happiness. Or you could go to just search on Amazon, right? The Fundamental Theory of Happiness, and pre-order your copy today. It ships out, should be the first week in November.
All right. Once again, Fundamental Theory of Happiness, how to find your purpose and be more joyful. Thank you so much, Dominick Albano, for making me happy to get to talk to you.
That's what I'm here for, man. I'll do it any way I can. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. It was awesome to come on the show.